Welcome to I Finally Get It. This week we have Gerald Huffman, founder of Seismic and creator of Web Pulse. Joining me in studio as always, Dustin Webb, our producer. I'm your host, Jeff Martin. Let's get it.
Everybody's heard you have to work on your business and not in your business. It took me about 5 years to fully understand that. And so I was at the end of a 80-hour work week and I was killing myself building websites, doing the development side of things. And I just basically was like, I can't do this anymore. And I realized I'm not the type that can do both. I'm not the type that can work in it and on it. So I had to 100% step out of the development and go just on the side of working on the business.
That's good. So what was your first step? Like, who was your first hire?
We've kind of went through different renditions in our company. So we've had full-time web development hires. We've had contractors for years, and immediately whenever we decided to make that switch, it was contractors. It was finding enough people that can handle the workload and can kind of help me phase myself out. So whenever I made that decision, this is a few years ago, and I was still the primary developer. And it was a slow process to kind of work myself out of it, but it was finding the people, from around the U.S. that could do the work for me.
But the decision, did it happen just like, look, I've worked 80 hours. I just can't live like this anymore.
Yeah, it was actually...
It was an instant decision, but you methodically took care of the switch. Yeah.
It was definitely I knew that it was not sustainable to work as much as I was working. And I wasn't seeing the progress in the business like I expected. So it was a moment whenever I basically went to my wife, Haley, who is our director of sales. And I was like, I can't do the development anymore. We both agreed, all right, we're going to phase me out of it. And we're going to put me in the role that I've always wanted to do, which is run the business side and make that work. And so what I realized was I was going in every day and I was building the websites. I was doing all of the development and I wasn't doing the hard work that it would take to kind of move the business forward. I wasn't doing the stuff that would ultimately get us where we wanted to be. And so I just realized that about myself. Like, I'm not the type that can wear two hats like that. And so I had to take the development hat off and go all in on the business side.
Yeah, that's good. And I will tell you, it's probably the best decision you could have made at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so hard to do that because I kept telling myself, well, our margins aren't there. And if I stay in development, we have better margins and I can keep this thing going for a lot longer. And I realized ultimately that I was holding us back by doing that because you take away all the direction. I was just living in a small mindset whenever it came to our business. And I think, subconsciously you almost like kind of sabotage things because you're looking at your workload and you're like, well, I can't do anymore. And so you're not pursuing projects as hard as you normally would. So there's little stuff like that going on that I just realized I was kind of self-sabotaging. And since I pulled out of doing the work, our business has grown. I'm happier and we have better direction. And that's what led us to figuring out what we wanted to do in the future, which is Web Pulse.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm grinning ear to ear because I hear this stuff every day. Yeah. And we do self-sabotage. I have no idea we're doing it. We have no idea. But we know that we can't live like this anymore, and we can't move the company forward. So everything we're trying to do, and usually most of us, we want to be or we're very used to being great at something. Yeah. And then when we're not really all that great at anything, it's terrible.
Yeah. So for me, I never wanted to be a web developer. That was never my goal in life, was to do this. I learned how to do the skill and I knew that there was a business that we could create off of this. I basically just had to, I just had to look at what I wanted to do moving forward. And I knew that it wasn't going to just be on this website side the whole time.
All right. So I want to hear, I think I know the answer to this because I can see it a mile away, but what was the thing you wanted to do? You started a web development business. Yeah. Because it was an opportunity, right? Yeah. But what did you grow up thinking you wanted to do?
It's always been run a business. But it's not just run a business, it's been grow a business. I like the side of websites. I like helping small businesses with their sites. But ultimately my goal in life is to run a business. And that's, whenever I met you, I was in a different business and that's just kind of what led me to today. But whenever I met you that's when we were in our plate days, which was that first company. that business actually failed.
Well, I was around you during the plate days, you know, and even though I have this attitude that even business failures, they're not, because we learn so much. The idea was brilliant, right? But tell me what you learned from that experience.
Sure. All right. So let me give the background on what the idea was, because it's the most college idea ever. So it was me and a buddy, Thomas Traha. We came up with this thing one night. I think we were probably drinking some beer, if I had to guess. But we basically said, all right, all of these restaurants are always doing different specials. They're doing happy hours. They're doing, $5 burgers on whatever night. What if there was an app that put all of that stuff into one place? And that was the idea for Plate. And so we talked about it, and we kind of got more and more serious about doing it. And it was funny because I was actually pre-med in college at UL. Whenever we got a little more serious about it, I went to my wife, and she was then my fiance, and told her, hey, look, I'm not going to med school anymore. I'm going to do this app company. And she didn't end up killing me. But anyhow, that's an aside. So basically we come up with this idea. We recruit a couple of developers, and that's when we meet you. We get into this accelerator. That business model, me and Thomas talk about it a good bit. It's extremely difficult. So you had to have the restaurants to get the users, and you had to have the users to get the restaurants. And we never could come up with a way to effectively market to both sides at the same time. Mm-hmm. And we were trying to bootstrap this as a bunch of college kids, and we made a little bit of progress, but ultimately that business model was just so hard that we couldn't end up making it work for us.
Yeah. Still such a great idea though. Yeah. You go to one app and see all the specials. You can go over here to get a drinks, go over here to get food, whatever.
That's right. And I think Groupon kind of hurt us a little bit. So Groupon, it really saturated the market with kind of a similar thing. They had the coupons that were coming out. It ended up kind of jading a lot of restaurants. I think that their prices went way up, and a lot of restaurants and bars had bad relationships with them towards the end. Yeah. And so when we come along and we're like, we just wanted to advertise what you have, there was almost like, there was a lack of trust a little bit.
Yeah, you're just another Groupon or whatever.
It's funny because we actually see companies pop up pretty regular now that are like, this is what we're going to do. And me and Thomas always talk about it like, see if they can pull it off. Maybe we almost are rooting for them to see what did we miss? How does somebody pull off this business model and make it make sense?
Speaking of what do you miss, what is the biggest lesson you learned from that experience?
I would say make sure that whatever company you're starting, try to make revenue as quick as possible. That one, I think we would have all saved a lot of heartache and time if we would have really forced that monetization quicker. Yeah. You get caught up in the world of creating apps where you're like, oh, okay, well, we'll try the freemium model and we'll try this and this. And you basically kick the can of monetizing down the road. And ultimately, I think if you have a valuable product, you need to be able to sell it day one. And so that's the biggest thing.
All right, huge light bulb moment there. And a lot of little nuggets, though, because y'all stayed in the ideation phase for a long time.
Yeah.
And bringing in, that's the essence of an app, though. You're bringing in developers to create something from thin air, right? But you can stay in that ideation phase forever.
Yeah, for too long. And you can waste so much time and resources there. And at the end of the day, like most people have heard of the concept of an MVP, a minimally viable product. And we did do that. But we didn't monetize off of that MVP. We said, all right, we're getting a great user base. We're getting restaurants that are interested. We weren't charging them, but we have a lot of interest in this. And so we thought that was the indication we needed to keep going.
Yeah. So and you did have a lot of interest, and it had a turn your head kind of factor. Yeah. And I think if you had actually money in the door, you had investors, then that could have kept you in, which would have been a piece of.
There's a lot of debates on how that works, and they say that no users are better than low users, and so we had a decent user base, but that is one thing that we think might have been a difference is, all right, let's hold back, let's try to pitch this concept, and let's get investors. That way we have enough money to advertise to the users to get a critical mass of users, and we have maybe a sales force that can go out and start selling to these restaurants, or get in with another company that has a restaurant customer base to piggyback off of.
Do some co-branding or whatever. Yeah.
But the reality was, we this was all of our first business, and I think all four of us that were involved with it would say we learned a ton from it, and we're happy that we did it. It was just, it's a difficult business to start right out of the gate.
Yeah,
I mean,
no doubt
multifaceted, business model like that.
You have the right attitude though, man. I'm telling you, you had to go through that. And I always get where I am and I look back, you had to go through that to get where you're going.
Yeah, 100%. That the confidence of selling, of dealing with people that work with you, co-founders, of learning how to put yourself out there, learning how to be your company's biggest advocate. That is stuff that I carried on with me to my next venture. And that was super important. Whenever that kind of thing happens, I feel like it shifted my mindset to let's do whatever it takes to not let this next company fail. And so that turns into, I'm going to just do all the work. I'm going to do everything myself. And then I think ultimately that's what held us back for years. Yeah. It was that fear of, well, what if my margins aren't as good? What if this and this and this? And ultimately I just learned that I had to make a conscious decision to get out of it completely so that I can grow our company.
Yeah. Look, you got our light bulb moment here, right? I went through a similar situation. I had this fear of failure. And so I would make decisions based more on avoiding failure than winning.
Yeah.
Right. And so did you experience some of that the one decision you were making was to work in the business so hard and develop her?
Oh, 100%. I'm a business book junkie, and it took me getting into more of a headspace books. Everybody's heard of some of the hot ones out there are The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. I'm not going to drop the bomb out here, but I had to get into that kind of stuff and learn that I was self-sabotaging to a big degree. Yep. And like I said, whenever I'm doing all of the work, everything's negative. We'd get a big project and I'm negative about it because I knew that I had to sit there and do the work, and I wasn't doing any of the hard work that it took to, get us out of that.
Yeah. Did you know immediately you made the right decision when you said, I got to pull out? Yeah.
The next day, I felt great about it. And it was almost instant. We had been running the company for a few years. We had a good clientele built up, and, I knew that things weren't just going to dry up. But the next day I felt re-energized. I felt re-energized about the company. Yep. And we started making steps to kind of dig us out and to actually start hitting the growth numbers that we wanted to.
Like you said, you were involved in Plate.
Yes.
And then you moved up to Seismic, and that's been a great choice. You met and married Haley. That was a great choice.
Yeah, that was an excellent choice.
That was a good one. It seems to me that you're more methodical and less pie in the sky than you were when you were a lot younger, right? Yeah. When we met. I want to talk about WebPulse because I'm fascinated by it. And frankly, I think people need to hear about this.
Yeah. Yeah. So with Seismic for the last 7 years, we've had the same thing. We go in, we build websites from scratch. We want to help small businesses figure out what they need to be online, and we build whatever their dream site is. And what we realized is we were building these websites. We would launch them. They'd invest a lot of time and money into these projects. And then once they're launched, they weren't touching those sites anymore. We really wanted to figure out how can we make sure that they're getting the most value out of their online presence. And that's what the idea, or that's how the idea for WebPulse came about. And so essentially it's taking website maintenance and putting it on steroids. So we take a look at your website. We go into it every single month and we see, all right, what happened in the previous month's analytics? How many people are going to our service pages, to our get a quote pages, to the different spots on the website? And we optimize every single month to make sure we're getting the conversions needed.
So let me ask you this. How much interaction do you have with the company?
Yeah.
Right? Because you got to, the outcome is they get more business.
That's right.
Right. So WebPulse is not just looking at analytics and making decisions. You're interfacing with them, and we're just going after what we're trying to.
That's right.
Trying to get more business.
We say that it's as little or as much communication with the client as they would like. So what we notice is a lot of times the businesses don't have time to look at the website every single month. And most of the time they actually just want us to do the work, send them the report, send them the video of what we did, and not make them do any more work. But it's very interactive, because what we notice is that when we started actually doing these optimizations, sending these videos, we got a lot more engagement from the companies that were previously not very interested in their sites. And they can see, oh, this actually does have a real impact on my company. And it started to move the needle, and you just get a lot more interaction from the clients.
Yeah. When they see it working, that it's something that's great.
Yeah, that's right.
I just think it's their storefront. Yeah. It is a virtual salesperson out there that's there available 24 hours a day. Yeah. And if you don't continually optimize, you're just making a huge mistake.
That's right. You've essentially wasted your money. And I mean, I have people tell us all the time, like, oh, my website doesn't do anything for my business. And I usually I got a handful of stats that I'll pull. Most consumers are visiting a website before they do business with you. I mean, there's very few industries that are not that way, but for the most part, a consumer is going to that website and then they're making a decision. So you might think it's not doing anything for your business, but I'd strongly disagree. I would say it's either hurting or helping. I mean, it's one of the two.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I agree. From one perspective, they want to verify that you're legitimate. So they call you, but the lifting it does while the consumer is on the site, if it's easy and you know what I mean? And it helps them, they're going to call you, and they've probably already made the decision to go with you than any other competitor because 100%. Of your website.
Yep. The website, I think it's as important as the actual storefront. Like we're saying, it's the online storefront. I genuinely think that it's as important because it's usually the first interaction with a customer. So it's setting the tone for that entire relationship with the customer for the longevity. It's been interesting to see. Once we started looking at websites differently and showing people what it could be, it's just it's been night and day difference interacting with some of these businesses that previously thought their website didn't matter.
Yeah, correct. So who's been your biggest inspiration? I know, look, you are entrepreneurial as much as anybody I've known, but who inspired you? Or did your parents own a business growing up or what?
Yeah. So my dad and both of my parents were very entrepreneurial. My mom's been a beautician working in her own shop for years and years. But I grew up, I always tell the story. I actually grew up working on a turtle pond in the summers. That my dad had a turtle pond. That was a company that he started. And we've done that. I mean, I remember just all these random things that we would always do. But I grew up being around people that knew there was other ways to make money than a 9-to-5. And so
for sure.
So that instilled in me, I knew I wanted to run a business. I knew I wanted to own one whenever I was growing up. Whenever I was in high school, I didn't necessarily know what that would be, but I knew it would be something in the business world.
Yeah, no doubt about it. What's next for Seismic? I know, again, I think it's important to realize that WebPulse is a product of Seismic.
That's right. So I think what's next for Seismic is, first and foremost, we're gonna really push WebPulse and make it our flagship product. Yeah. We're gonna do whatever it takes to kind of get that to the next level. We want that to be a nationally known brand. But I do think Seismic is going to turn into a company that has multiple brands under its umbrella. That's kind of the idea. I'm big on the AI side. I think that's about to change a lot of things. And I would like for Seismic to actually own a couple of AI brands underneath its umbrella at some point. But for now, all of our focus is being poured into WebPulse, mainly because I think it's going to teach our company how to interact with a product. Like, I think that that's going to be a necessary learning curve for us to get to the next level with any product. So we're trying to establish a blueprint with WebPulse, figure out what it takes to grow it, what it takes to get into different markets, and then take all of that knowledge, roll it into the next product when we come up with a good idea for one.
Oh, I get it. I finally get it. Here at Company Growth Academy, we've begun teaching 20-minute growth strategies. They're free, they're fast, and they're full of information to help you grow your company. For more information and to sign up for our advanced notification list, just go to 20togrow.com, 20togrow.com. Let's get it. Creating this product, you realize going into it that it's going to be a knowledge base for you.
Yeah.
And so you are launching this thing knowing that you basically are becoming a research company. And not only are you going to learn what is the next best step for Seismic, you're going to create an information base that you can share with customers all. And that's how you get WebPulse to be a national brand.
Yeah.
It is not just a product, but you're becoming a research company.
Yeah, that's right. All of all of the time and effort and trial and error and A/B testing that we do for Web Pulse, I think it'll be able to fold into the next product 100%. I mean, especially because we will have the ultimate decision on what to go into next, and we'll try to find something very, adjacent to what we're doing that'll make a natural next step. And I think what that product's going to be, I'm not 100% sure yet, but I do think it's going to be on the AI side of things. Mm-hmm. But we're going to probably make it something that we can 100% pull off of this knowledge base that we're building.
So tell me a business tip for somebody out there, because you've started several companies and you're doing very well. What's a business tip you would give some upstart person out there who just wants to own their own business?
The biggest thing to me is making sure that you're being your company's biggest advocate. I think a lot of times whenever somebody starts a company, they're nervous about telling people. They don't want to be embarrassed if it fails. And so they naturally kind of recoil and they work in the shadows. But whenever you're that small, like when you're just starting out, you have to tell people. I think if you get into the mindset of, I'm gonna try to work in the shadows and I don't want anybody to know, I think you're kind of dooming yourself to failure. So if you start something, be proud of it, push it. And you know what? If you fail publicly, doesn't kill you. You're going to be fine. You'll roll on to the next idea, but don't self-sabotage and keep that all to yourself.
That's a lot of good information right there. And it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier, is this fear of failure.
Yeah.
And that self-sabotage. But I think you're 100% right. You must be your biggest and best advocate out there telling your story. And we have an obligation to you. If you truly believe that your product is better than anything else they can get, we have an obligation to go tell the story.
That's right. And I'll tell you this too. There's been times when I wasn't 100% happy with the product that we were selling. And that in itself kind of causes you to not want to tell people, but you have to take the time and prove that product and make it something that you're 100% on. And then you'll have more confidence. But I noticed in myself, whenever I was starting my second company, that I was on the wings of another company failure. I was very nervous to tell anybody because you already had that there. You feel like people are looking at you some kind of way, but you just have to put yourself out there because nobody else is going to do it for you.
No,
that's the reality of it.
They're not.
Yeah, you have to beat your own drum a little bit. After that light bulb moment of figuring out that I was almost self-sabotaging by staying in the business, I feel like that's when things changed for Seismic. And that's whenever I started doing more of this personal branding, trying to get myself out there a little bit more, because I just ultimately want people to know what I'm doing. And I've gotten to the phase where I'm proud of it enough that I'm willing to put myself out there and risk the public failure. That's ultimately, I think, the only reason people don't do it. They're risking the public failure. Part of the problem is if you're on LinkedIn, if you're on, whatever social media platform, you see so many people that are at the next phase of their company. You don't see people in this grinded out phase down here in the dirt. You only see the successful, we're rolling with 20, 30, 40 employees. We had explosive growth. And it kind of makes you feel bad about your company, makes you feel bad about where you are. And that adds to it. You're like, well, I'm not like that guy that I just saw. I don't want to say where I'm at because that's kind of embarrassing. That is the hurdle that you have to get past. You have to say, all right, to hell with it. That's okay. I'm not there yet, but I'm proud of where I am. I'm proud of the company that I built. And you know what? If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but I can't say it's because I didn't try and didn't advertise it.
I would start documenting where you are right now publicly.
Yeah.
Because people want to pull for you.
That's right.
People like you. They want you to win, and they want to see they want to see growth.
That's right.
And guess what? They'll tell more people because of that. And you're likely going to see more interest come in because you're more like most people.
That's right.
Than anybody else. So it's this idea of getting past this fear of public failure is a big help for people. I'm telling you, if you're going to really put your money where your mouth is, document it and put it out there.
Yeah. I kind of started dipping my toe in that water a little bit on LinkedIn. Yeah. I did a post the other day that kind of talks about that and talks about how it's almost a toxic thing to look on social media and just see what everybody else is doing, and it just makes you not want to put yourself out there. And that's kind of where I am trying to get into that space a little bit without, I don't know. It's kind of a funny game of how much information to share versus how, how much to keep to yourself. So
I can't, we have an epidemic of disengaged workers in the United States. And a lot of it is because they're looking at social media and their friends are all in Destin and,
that's right.
They feel sorry for themselves so they don't work. But I hear what you're saying. I'm not there yet, so I'm not worthy.
That's right.
Nothing can be farther from the truth.
100%. Like people, they'll look at this. Oh, Gerald's on the I Finally Get It podcast. He finally made it. I'm like, well, there is no finally made it. I'm still down here in the dirt grinding away. Eventually, I think I will. Eventually, I'll figure out what it takes to get to that next step. If I keep failing at something, tweaking it, and improving it, ultimately I will get there. Ultimately, our company will get there. But there's a lot of people that are just trying to start something, and they just need the confidence to put themselves out there. Because the reality is, if you don't, I think that's what causes a lot of companies to fail. It's about not putting themselves out there.
Yep. As you interact with people and you have you deal with people, whether the website, customers, or the public, how do you try to leave people different and better than before they met you?
I'm big into helping people reach their goals. I think that it's important, whether it's somebody that works for you, whether it's a company that you're serving, if people that interact with you know you as somebody that's going to help them get where they want to be, then it's almost like that law of attraction. Like people are going to want to work with you. They're going to want to work for you. And that's the biggest thing to me is making sure you're empowering everybody that you can that makes sense to get where they want to be.
Thanks for joining us on I Finally Get It. To learn more about Gerald and what he's got going on at Seismic, please visit the show notes. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. At Company Growth Academy, we have started 20-minute growth strategies. Every month, we put out 20-minute growth strategies that you can just come into a Zoom room without any kind of pressure and learn your next strategy. To join the advanced notification list, just go to 20togrow.com, 20togrow.com. If you're a business owner and entrepreneur, and you have a light bulb moment that you think would help other business owners and entrepreneurs, please reach out to me at jeff@ifinallygetit.com.